A very good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing? Today we will be taking a look at Bitcoin. I'm not going to chart any alts today, given that if we do break down from the log support, the TA of all the alts will not really matter, as we will basically invalidate everything. So without further ado, let's get to it. I'm going to start short term and we'll work our way to long term as we go. So for today, I think this might be a bit more of a bullish day, given that we have just broken out of a short-term bear trend. As you can see, we have tested this trend line like, let's see, five times, and now we finally broke out. And so I've drawn my Fibonacci over this short-term dump, and I came to the conclusion that given that Bitcoin overall has been bearish the last couple of months, I will take my aim for the zero point 0.5 Fibonacci level, which is currently sitting at around 8,370 USD. What you usually see after such a breakout as this one is that there is a retrace to the 618, which is sitting at around 85.30. But I don't really want to risk missing out my target, and that's the reason I went for the 05. So this is the 15-minute. Obviously, this is super short. I don't like trading on super short time frames, except when I'm margin trading, of course. If we go to the hourly, you can see that we are actually trying to make a bull flag. Let me just adjust my screen a little bit because this looks like shit. There you go. Okay, this is better, I reckon. We're actually making a bull flag, and so I'm pretty confident that we will reach my target. For the longer term, which is currently the hourly, just a small second, there you go. This is what I'm looking at right now. And as you can see, this perfectly matches my target. I think we might actually break this downtrend as well in order to make an attempt for the logarithmic resistance that we've got going on right here. So I'm just going to take my chart, going to activate the log scale, and I will show you exactly what I mean when I say we are in a big wedge right now. So first I'm going to draw the bearish trend line, and it pretty much runs like this. As you can see, our previous attempt of breaking it was not really successful, sadly. But I didn't expect it to be successful at all. I expect we have to, if we are going to break out topside, we are going to have to finish this wedge pretty much to the extent that we are super close to the crossings. And the crossings will happen at the 4th, so that's April 21st. I don't think we will go there. I think it's more likely that we will see the conclusion of this wedge before the 10th of April. That being said, so as you can see, this is currently what I'm looking at. This is the flag, the wedge. Now, what happens when we break the wedge? Obviously, that's the most important thing. When we break the wedge, I think it will be the foremost best time to initiate a long or a short. You know, with or without margin, doesn't really matter. And if we're going to do this, I can see a couple of well, plays that we might be following. First of all, if we break out topside. If we break out topside, I think a reasonable target for a long would be 14,500 USD. Obviously, that's not the exact number that it says here, but That's the range you might want to be looking, since that is the 618 Fibonacci level, and this usually is the strongest fib level, and that's why I like to aim for this fib. Once we have reached this target, a couple of things actually can happen. I'm pretty confident if we go there, we will see a bounce to the downside. Most likely to this level right here. We've got a resistance running from 11,200 to 12,200. This seems to be a pretty strong level. We've tried to retest it 4 times, never broke through. So if we are breaking out topside, that's where I would initiate another long. Now, let's say things go south, everything turns bearish, and there is a good possibility for this to happen. Where would we go? And to get an answer, what we would have to do is actually zoom out to the daily, and we are going to draw the next support. Obviously, if we break down here, logarithmic is no longer in play, so I will remove the log scale for this. Have to be creative, of course. So let's say the wedge breaks down. Where would we go? And the answer is pretty simple. If we break down here, what I expect is that we will see a play out of the entire bubble chart that is so famously known amongst basically everyone. And this would give us a support at around 4,400 USD. This is not really a disaster, given that we have already lost about 12,000 USD in market value. But it is like not a good thing. And the reason is not because I don't want Bitcoin to go down in price. It goes down in price, it goes up in price. Doesn't matter if you're a true believer. But I would like to see some kind of alt pump, alt season during this year. And basically, if we are going to break down the wedge, that is something that we most likely will not see this year. You can see that this trend actually exists in the log scale as well. So that gives it double validation. And last time that something like this happened, I will just show you here. Last time that something like this happened. So here you go. This would be the wedge in 2013, 2014. After the wedge broke, it took about 450 days to recover. And this would be very sad, actually. Of course, money can be made in a bullish market, in a bearish market, doesn't matter, BitMEX all the way. But I just prefer to see an alt season this year. So if we break down from this wedge, expect to see a year-long bear market or a market where not a lot happens. Does that mean that there is no opportunity in alts? No, of course not. I think the first month or two, alts will be very bearish. I will sell out most of my alts actually. But then, after about, let's say, like 3 months, the market would be able to stabilize itself, which would give us some possibilities for some alt runs. Now, I do not expect to see crazy moves like this, because obviously back in the day the market was very immature, and we could see a 37% move even after the wedge broke in a couple of days. I don't think that will be the case right now. I think that we will go a little bit more slow. As you can see, there is no crazy drops, no crazy wicks anymore that there were back in the day like this. See, for example, this wick is a dump for 84% in one day. I don't think we will see anything like that anymore. But I do believe if we break down from the wedge now, we could see. Well, let's just draw this line out further. We're going to draw it out further. Here you go, and I'm going to take the time that it will take from the breakout to the wedge to where the line will actually match the level. And this seems about 481 days, which not surprisingly correlates with the dump back in 2013, 2014. So if we truly break this wedge, if we go down, if we go into a year-long bear market, then the first 3 months I will most likely only be shorting, not be trading any alts. That's a good question. Zombified, if we can buy alts with USD, wouldn't that make them more dynamic and more or less, reliant on Bitcoin? Yes and no. Right now you can see some alts that can be bought with USD. Take for example EOS. EOS can be bought with USD, USDT, and it is one of the alts that is currently less dependent on the Bitcoin price than most of the other alts. That being said, I think it will take a year, if not 2 years, for all the alts to be available in USD. And even then, a lot of people will still be trading it with Bitcoin. So yes, alts can be less reliant on Bitcoin once they are tradable in USD. But it will take a year, 2 years, 3 years in order for this effect to be truly noticeable. So I don't think that this year USD paired alts will be our saving. Just to show you what I mean, let us just take the EOS chart out. I don't know if it's on. Yes, it is. There we go. EOS USD, Bitfinex. Sadly, this chart doesn't go all the way back. I might have to go to Coinigy. I think actually Litecoin is a better example. Let's do Litecoin. So here we have Litecoin, and as you can see, just going to take out my indicator. The on-balance volume for USD seems to be paired pretty well. It's even a little bit higher. There's some kind of divergence with the price for Litecoin. And you can see that USD wise, it was forming a wedge. And yet, even though I strongly suspected Litecoin to break out topside, it went down. And you can see the past 2 days, Bitcoin was very bearish and Litecoin took over this behavior. Now, take a look at the on-balance volume at the bottom here. If we take the on-balance volume for Litecoin BTC, and we are also going to do it on Bitfinex, you can see that the volume, Bitcoin-wise, is sitting significantly lower than the volume in May last year. Even though the price actually made a new high, you can see Bitcoin-wise, the price made a new high over last year. The volume is lower. And I believe this is the case because a lot of institutional investors, people with big money, they're going to trade crypto against USD, because their goal is going to be purely make more USD. They don't care about making more Bitcoins, whatever. But they do care about making USD. And you can see this in the chart. You see higher, high, but volume-wise, it's lower. Completely different story if you look at the USD chart, higher high and higher volume, significantly, hugely, vastly more volume than before. And if you go back further in time, this is even more ridiculous. So money is flowing in. Money is definitely flowing in the market. That's why I expect that the top 10 alts will not suffer as much as all the other alts that are only paired against Bitcoin. And this is something to keep in mind during the year. You know, if Bitcoin is finished, dumping, you know, probably we could see a dump to 4,000. Once that is over, I would keep a very close eye on the alts that are paired against USD, because they might very well outperform much, you know, most of the market. For now, we are still in the wedge. We seem to have made a bounce. Usually, most of the time, you will see that the wedge breaks in the like a wedge of this size breaks at the very end, because people will become scared, they will become indecisive, and so what I expect is just to see this, and then we will most likely see a flatliner. People will not know what to do, and then we will see an extremely aggressive move to either side. And I'm really looking forward to this, because this will be the trade of the year. If you're trading margin on BitMEX, this will be the trade to make this year. You can really make a lot of money from this if you time it right. I don't, you know, huge possibility that we will first see a fake out, as this is the case most of the time. You know, Bitcoin is subject to manipulation, and usually you will see a push out of the wedge and then back into the wedge, just to get all these people out of their margins, take up larger positions, and then most likely we will see the real breakout. It doesn't matter which side. The date on the end of the wedge is currently sitting at the 20th of April. I don't think we will go all the way there. I think it's more likely that we will see a breakout before the 10th of April. So that would be in 2 weeks on a Tuesday, but most likely before that. So it will not, for 20, yeah. So it will not take too much time anymore, and just make sure you're ready. You know, once we are going to make that move, make sure you will be able to pick up that move and to make a profit from it. And also, I will not be covering alts, as I said, before this happens, because it doesn't matter what the chart of an alt looks like. If this shit is gonna break down, the alts are going with it. Small side note. Something else is actually going on right now. The stock markets are looking grim beyond belief. They haven't looked this bad in about, I'd say, since 2008. And if I go to the weekly, you can see what I mean. So just going to grab it on here. I will tell you what I'm currently worrying about. So we had like the crash. This is significant for Bitcoin as well, so make sure to follow it. Crash in 2009, you know, it was right here. I'll just time it. This is where the crash started. This is where it finished. If you look at the volume, the unbalanced volume, you don't see anything weird about it. Okay, so this looks like a flat line. Obviously, it's not. Um, Now, what happened afterwards? We recovered from this crash. This was a debt crash, and we solved it by making more debt. And what you can see is right here, this is where things started looking grim. They look like, okay, we might go into another financial crisis. Obviously, the banks didn't want that. So what happened? What do you know? They started printing money and pouring all this money into the stock market. As you can see, this is unnatural. Looks like something never seen before. And also, if you look at the RSI, this is something that has never ever happened in the entire history of the SPX. This is the most overbought RSI I have ever seen in my entire life. Not even Bitcoin, not even any alt made an RSI this overbought. Um, and what's happening now is they are having the interest rate at zero. So the interest rate is zero, or it was, and now they are trying to raise the interest rate. And all this artificial printed money that has been poured into the stock market, as soon as they start raising the interest rate, things are gonna turn south very fast. As you can see here, it was, I believe, around February, somewhere around the 5th, they did the first raise, and what do you know? You can see an immediate impact on the stock market. Now, they solved the 2009 financial crisis by getting the interest rates to zero. So the interest rates now are close to zero, and they cannot pull that emergency brake again. So if we go down this time, we might go down extremely hard. And current support for the SPX is sitting at around 25.85. And as you can see, it is not reacting at all. At first it did. You know, the first time we went there, it was like, nope, I don't want to be there. And, you know, the price increased at about 10%, which is huge in the stock markets in a couple of days. But now the price doesn't really seem to care anymore. So as soon as we break this level right here, expect for a huge dump on the stock market. And the question is, how is this going to affect Bitcoin? And the answer, we don't know. There has not been any significant stock market crash since the inception of Bitcoin. Well, obviously there was for 1 year, but nobody was trading it back then. So I'm going to look for any kind of response from Bitcoin as soon as the SPX breaks down. And most likely this wedge will, coincidentally or not, coincide with the crash of the stock market. That's just the way things usually go. You know, it might be coincidence or not, but we will see how Bitcoin reacts. And personally, I'm hoping it to act as a safe haven. You know, people are going to lose money on the stock market. They're going to be like, okay, what do I do? The current housing prices are insane. So real estate obviously is not really an option. So what do? You buy gold, and maybe people buy Bitcoin. Could also go the other direction. You know, people are going to lose money in the stock market, and they're going to pull out all their money from Bitcoin. So this is something that I want to keep a close eye on. And my preferable outcome would be that Bitcoin is a safe haven and that it explodes in price because the stock market goes wrecked. And this would be great because we will all take big profits if this happens. You know, we could go up all the way to 20K again and take this money and just put it in the stock market as soon as it has come down to reasonable levels. So yeah, basically that's it for now. And this will be it for quite a while. I think like the coming 2 weeks, things will not really change as much. We will see less and less aggressive moves in the wedge, and then eventually it will blow out either way. So make sure to stay safe and be patient for this wedge. Don't try to gamble on something because it can go wrong really fast if it breaks out the other direction. So thanks for watching. Make sure to, if you haven't done so, please subscribe. I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and it would really help me if you guys can just try to subscribe and you know interact with me on Twitter. I'm always there. So I guess that's it. Thanks for watching and have a great day.